Hey guys, Dr. Alex the Punch Doctor here, and today I want to take a look at Tom Aspinall's punch mechanics. First of all, I want to thank you for the 10,000 subscribers. I'm glad that people are seeing and enjoying my content, and I look forward to bringing you more. Obviously, Tom has risen quickly to the top of the UFC heavyweight division, and for good reason. He's very athletic and quick on his feet, and has looked good against the opposition he's faced. However, there are a few things I noticed in his punch mechanics that can be improved. I'm going to talk about some concepts here that you might not be familiar with if you haven't seen my reference video. So please have a look at that for more detail about the anatomy, biomechanics, and mechanisms behind precise and powerful strikes. The link to the reference video is in the description. You may have seen Tom punch the power cube in this video and registering around 30 to 40,000. As a comparison, Poatan hit it about 5 times harder. I think Tom could probably increase his score by like 50% in a few minutes with a few tweaks, and probably double it or more pretty easily with some additional work. I want to make it clear that mechanics is not just about power, but precision, body control, economy of movement, and delivering deliberate, purposeful strikes on demand. Let's take a look. Now, the first thing is his score is all over the place. It's inconsistent. And as a professional, oh, look at that, 30,000, and before that was 40. He really should be punching the same way every time. That shows me that there are some issues with his technique if he's so inconsistent hitting a stationary target. I'll watch him in full speed a couple times, and then I'll break down what he's doing wrong and what he could do to increase his power quite significantly, I think, very quickly. So the first thing I want to show you, this first one is awful. However, let's look at his shoulder and look at him lead with his shoulder. Now, I'm not sure what his hips are doing. They might be creating torque there. If he is, it's irrelevant because he's losing everything by leading with his shoulder and having that high arm position. He's maybe creating a stretch shortening cycle in his shoulder, however, not in his crossbody kinetic chains. And I know that just because of his position. If he was creating a stretch shortening cycle in his crossbody chains, he would be a little bit more upright and he would have had more rotation in his hips and his torso. His elbow would also be below the shoulder. When that arm moves up, it moves into an unstable position. You're going to lose tension in your pec major, in your serratus anterior, and in your lats, and in your teres major, which all provide a solid, stable platform for your shoulder to facilitate weight transfer and follow through. He just doesn't have that in this position, how he's landing. Now we'll look at Alex Pereira do it. And look at his shoulder. His elbow is going to be a little bit lower than his shoulder. And look at his body continue to move through the punch, through impact, which Tom does not do. And we can really see, obviously, the torque that Alex is creating in his pelvis right there. Everything follows. However, at impact, I want you to see his body continue forward. Right there. So he's really driving a lot of force into the power cube, whereas Tom is bouncing off of it. You see that? It just bounces right back. He doesn't have the stability necessary in the shoulder, and he's not putting his weight into and through the target. And it's a consistent thing. We'll see him do it here again. And his arm just bounces back. He's not transferring his weight at the moment of impact. It might be unfair to compare him to Poatan, but that's the gold standard we have now for score on the power cube. And he's really driving his weight behind the punch into and through the opponent with very little power leak in the shoulder. Here's some footage of Tom going full bore on the bag. And he says he's going to go full power, full speed on the bag as an exercise for 1-minute rounds. Now, a couple problems right off the bat, in my opinion. I think that you should be hitting a bag that's freestanding. Number one, if there's a hard back behind it, like a wall, you're not going to be able to practice follow through because there's going to be nowhere for the bag to go. Now you want to hang it just like in the middle of the room or something, like normal, and let it swing so there's some give to it. So you can really hit it as hard as possible and work on following through and transferring your weight into and through your target, which he cannot do here because of the hard stop. Now there's a little bit of room, but there's simply not really enough consistently in this scenario to really drill weight transfer. And that's another reason why I like the water and foam bags, because they have really good feedback. It's a little soft, so it creates a little bit of instability when you hit it. And that naturally will cause you to inherently develop stability when landing. And it's a platform where you're able to use to practice your follow through much better. And just like in the Power Cube video, you can see that his punches are just hitting the surface and not really going through. So he hits it, but it doesn't look like he's putting any weight really into it. Now he's using his hip mechanics are fine. You can see if you look at his belt line, you can look at his hips move first, but he's just not landing with a ton of force. He doesn't appear to be utilizing a stretch shortening cycle in his crossbody chains. It looks like he's doing a Devin Haney and just pushing the punch with his right hand. It looks like his arm and his hip are moving in lockstep, which I point out in the Devin Haney video. It's just missing some oomph. It looks like it's almost a straight line punch. You can also see his hips moving backwards at impact. So it looks like he's pushing himself away from the bag somewhat. Instead of allowing his weight to go forward and through, which might be because the bag is so close to the wall, he's pushing himself away. Rather than his upper body going into and through the bag to transfer the weight, it looks like he's somewhat pushing himself backwards. And you can see it's subtle, but right here, his hips are moving backwards when they should be stationary, allowing his body to go forwards, ideally. So take a look at this. You know how guys, they pop their shoulder, they lead with the shoulder, and it goes up and forward and then down, and that's the pop when it comes down? Look at that. I don't know if that's something that he practiced, but it certainly looks like that's what he's doing. At least that's what it looks like to me. And he's just simply not putting any weight through his target. That's the problem. And with small gloves, you can get away with it. But his power needs some work. His mechanics need some work. Additionally, you can see him rotate his hips first, right there. However, it's not a lot. And it's not really enough to create adequate stretch in those crossbody chains. He might be bracing his core. And you have to lead a little bit more with your center, right? Martial artists talk about the center. And you'll see examples of Powhatan doing that. Go back to him, of course. He's a master striker. And when he strikes, he leads a lot with his center. And what that does, it stretches those crossbody chains. The ones that I talk about, spiral line, front functional line, and it allows the stretch shortening cycle to occur between the hips and the torso. Tom is not doing that here. And as he's leading with his shoulder, he's not allowing those chains to stretch and contract adequately, which is another reason he's lacking power in this hook. His arm and his hip are also moving in lockstep. So they're moving together rather than as a chain of events, where he would be utilizing the stretch shortening cycles in his torso and in his arm. And then we go back to also not following through, not transferring weight at impact. He's just hitting the surface. He has good hip rotation here. He could be utilizing the stretch shortening cycle better, but he ends up just muscling and pushing the punch and moving his arm and hip in lockstep. Now in fights, Tom gets it done. When he takes a big step, like with a big 1-2, he can deliver a lot of power. However, when he's closer in proximity, when he's up close, sometimes he gets a bit excited and he could improve his precision, shot placement, and mechanics close up. I think Tom has a great combination of speed, skill, and size. However, there are aspects of his striking that I think he can improve. He will need all the skill he can get against John Jones and Alex if they fight. That's about all for this video. If you haven't seen my reference video, please check that out. And if you're interested in maximizing your own punching power and turning your body into the most precise, economical, and deliberate striking instrument you can, check out my program, The Power Punching Blueprint, available now at howtopunchharder.com. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video.